Wednesday, my dudes. 24th, if I'm not mistaken. I fly out on the 26th. It's the 25th, according to my laptop. I guess I fly out on the 27th. Yo, my name is William Harper to be exact. It's a good day. It's almost noon. It's a quarter till. Here in the garage. Got my boat. It's not my boat, it's my buddy. Got my books, knowledge. There's books, tutorials. I've got all kinds of knowledge right here on this tablet and the internet and the laptop, and I'm working. I just had lunch, eggs and a brownie. I'm thinking I might need to fast. I'm feeling really good actually. I was taking a number 2 bathroom break, and I have this book sitting there. It's like a little pamphlet, a little tiny thing that a professor of mine at the college wrote, and it's about Jesus and stuff. And I was reading it, and I've had it for years, and I've tried reading it over the years, and like, part of me really wants to be atheist. But after reading what I read this time, it really struck me as like logical. And it's weird, in my opinion, for something so mystical to seem logical. But the world is fucking crazy as it is. So it's really not that weird anymore. I mean, I think about the coincidences that have occurred. Like, for instance, Greg Palast. He's a journalist. He's a badass motherfucker. Like a lot of other badass motherfucking journalists. Amy Goodman. This guy, Albert Bender. These kinds of people, these are the kinds of people, kind of journalists that cover things like Standing Rock and Occupy Wall Street and Erdogan's, is that his? I think that's his name. From Turkey's bodyguards beating up peaceful demonstrators on American soil. Kind of people who cover, like I saw a journalist. I don't remember her name, but she was on the YouTubes talking about shit in Las Vegas, and she apparently showed up at a press conference and was questioning these, officers of the law on these cameras with her own camera. There's just so many good journalists, man. It makes me want to totally change. Like, I love designing things, but journalism is where it's at, dude. Greg Palast was on the Jimmy Dore show. He's been on Redacted Tonight a lot, it seems like. He had a documentary come out last year called The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. And he's on the Jimmy Dore show like this week, maybe yesterday even. As recent as yesterday. As recently, anyhow, excuse me. Talking about, I can't remember his name, Stephen Pollock, the Las Vegas shooter, and how they apparently went to the same school, grew up in the same town in California. Really a mind fuck and a half, some mind blowing shit. Because, and see, my point was that the world can be so weird, right? You've got people that seem commendable to me, like this woman who's on the YouTube questioning officers of the law about the time, the timing of events in Las Vegas. And you've got people like Amy Goodman who are talking about things like Standing Rock, and you've got people like, what's my fucking point here? Fuckity fuck. You've got people like this. Greg Palast covered. I didn't really know about him until about this time last year, but he was talking about voter fraud or voter suppression. This program called like cross-check and how fucked up it was. All these people weren't getting a vote. All these black and brown, all these traditionally minorities were being basically discriminated against, right? And he's talking about that same guy. Like, it just seems like I want to take it even further. Because what gets me is the spectrum of opinions, of political ideas. Like, over here, you've got these right-wing conservative folk saying we should be able to have our guns, we should be able to keep our money, people don't deserve health care, can't have abortions. This shit gets discombobulated the deeper you go. It's one thing to say you're right-wing and you like money. It's another thing to say you think you could tell other people what to do in their own lives, like private lives. Then over here you've got people who think everybody should be taken care of in a society equally, should be given equal opportunity. And then it gets discombobulated when it's like all of a sudden, because you're left wing, you can't think guns are okay. I mean, like, they're tools. They're technology. You're saying you want to ban technology. I get that. I get the idea, but there's way more to it. And my point was, it's weird and funny to me that people could believe Las Vegas is a false flag. Like this video I was talking about with this girl in Vegas, it was showing conservative news anchor dudes like Tucker Carlson and I don't remember who else it was showing. I don't know their names. I did notice that Tucker has been wearing a tie recently as opposed to a fucking bow tie all the time. Taking himself more seriously or whatever. Anyhow, gotta take... What the fuck am I trying to talk about? Grab the fly. It's funny because it seems like people are willing to believe things that serve them. You know, they're willing to look at certain things in a certain kind of logical way, like Vegas or Sandy Hook. Because I had a conversation with a right-leaning friend recently in the last couple months before Vegas about politics, and this person was saying that they think socialism is evil, you know, kneeling for the flag is a bad thing because it disrespects the troops, and that basically our troops can't do any wrong, that killing innocent civilians in the Middle East is totally okay, I guess. You know, terrorists can only be Islamic or Muslims or whatever, and they always want to destroy America. Like, not really understanding the definition of words or using them in what I like to think of as kind of a magical way, a manipulative is a good word I think to describe it, but definitely anyhow. I asked this person about, at some point we got to talk about 9/11, and the potential of it being a false flag or whatever, you know, a conspiracy. And this person I was talking to's husband, my good friends, you know, he was like, "You're a fucking psycho. Like, that shit was not fake." And it actually had me, you know, it was interesting to talk to them about it because they believe so vehemently something different than I do. It seems like they're just not open to the idea at all, which is a little troubling to me because it's not like you can't look into things, you know. And I get that, like, you can logically look at it from the official point of view, But like to not even open yourself to considering alternatives to me is dangerous. And the thing was, I was trying to understand where they were coming from, and they had me look into. I asked them about Building 7 if they even were aware that it collapsed, and they weren't. Apparently, they claimed to not be aware of it. And I looked into it, and for the first time, like I've seen all these videos about the conspiracies, but they've never talked about how there was potentially a subway station underneath Building 7, which, if that were the case, would kind of, help explain how Building 7 collapsed, I would say. But I don't see any really good debunking videos even bringing that up. And the conspiracy theory videos I've seen where you see these official scientist guys being questioned about certain things or explaining certain things are very questionable. They seem like nervous as can be. And anyhow, the person was willing, the woman was willing to, listen to me, not call me a psychopath for believing what I did. But she didn't agree with me. So I asked her about Sandy Hook and was surprised to hear her say that she didn't believe the official story, that she believed it was a hoax, which blew my mind because she didn't believe 9/11 was a hoax, but Sandy Hook, it serves the right-wing agenda to label Sandy Hook a hoax. It's logical to look at the fact that Obama was president while Sandy Hook happened, Bush was president when 9/11 happened, so you're going to have people on opposite ends of the spectrum believing opposite things, according to what team they identify with being on or whatever. Sandy Hook, though, like, whoa, okay. We're making some progress here because you're looking at things, you're not accepting the official narrative anymore. You're willing to look deeper. And now the thing is, I don't know if Sandy Hook was a hoax. I kind of doubt it was. But at the same time, it is interesting. It's horrible, though, that obviously it seems people are harassing victims' families of that event, and that those people, if they are truly victims, aren't being, like, you would think they would get all kinds of airtime and there would be studies. But to think there's not studies on gun violence in the country is also very disconcerting. And to anyhow, Sandy Hook aside, Vegas happened. Trump is in office now, but we did just get done with Obama. And the thing is, it was a white guy. Right-wing politics are typically associated with white men and white people, the white majority, whatever, quote-unquote American values, whatever. This guy, as soon as I heard about it happen, I'm thinking, probably going to be a Muslim person, right? A lot of people died. And it would definitely serve Trump's agenda if it were a Muslim person. It seems like, right? They would go to fucking war with Al-Qaeda. That was really the thing that surprised me, and it makes me question the conspiracy theories around this event. If it was a conspiracy, why make it a white guy? Make it a fucking Middle Eastern guy or a black guy or a gay fucking transvestite or some shit, and then you could go after them, right? They would be silenced. Any one of those minority groups or whatever, the people would feel justified in their anger, it seems. Even if it were a false flag, it wouldn't fucking matter. Not to Trump, dude. He would use the fuck out of that shit. We would be in a new war, or a ramped up war. I think it's hard to argue with that. Especially if you're the kind of person who can consider these events as false flag hoaxes or whatever. If you can even consider, just think what I just said is bad or crazy, it's like, no way. And here's the thing. Here's what it was another thing I really wanted to touch on. It blows my mind that people can believe something like Sandy Hook was a hoax or a false flag, but not think that we're being manipulated with propaganda on the news and the like. That any like, obviously you'd have to subscribe to some form of identity politics. Okay, here's another thing I didn't even bring up yet. I don't guess. Right wing climate change, anthropogenic climate change. Generally a no, like oil and vinegar water deal over here, right? Science and conservatism, republic, whatever, right-wingism. Science and right-wing do not typically go together. Maybe economics, right? Maybe history. But biology, physics, geology, fucking ecotoxicology, right? Most ecotoxicologists understand that humans can affect nature. That's their fucking field. Trump says it's made up. Because were he to admit that it's true, you'd have to ask him, like, well, why are you cutting down all these natural habitats to build golf courses and shit? That doesn't make any sense. You're contributing to the problem. You acknowledge the problem. So, I like to follow conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theorists' activities throughout. This never would have occurred to me that the fires in California were caused by some conspiracy that were caused by directed energy weapons on drones or some shit, like they defy the laws of physics. How I don't see how or a flat earther, how anybody in the world can ever go so deeply into thinking that this kind of shit is possible, that this conspiracy is more likely than what seems to, if you use Occam's razor, obviously be the truth, right? California's fucking dry. They've been talking about this shit for over a decade, man. Like drought. Okay, we got a bunch of rain last year, but we're in another drought this year, and we've been in a drought for 15 years, like probably longer. And you're trying to say it's just amazing that people can believe this. They can believe the Bible, that God put dinosaur bones on the planet to test our faith, that Jesus can be called into our heart, but they can't believe in some logical conclusion of, pollution being bad, exhaust fumes from cars being bad and causing some unintended side effects we would consider negative. Like, you sit in a garage like I'm in right now, even if you just run a weed eater engine, it's not going to take long, man. I will die. All the oxygen will be consumed by the spark in that engine. And the gasoline that mixed with that spark and exploded turned into a poisonous gas. And I will die from breathing it in. If I'm in a closed space like this garage with no fresh oxygen, I will die. You can stand outside and weed eat all fucking day long because there's trees and oxygen and shit. But to think that it serves most conspiracy theorists, I would say, it serves their purposes to believe that climate change is made up. Anthropogenic climate change is made up. It serves their purpose. Because they don't have to take responsibility for their actions anymore. I don't need to recycle. It's just a conspiracy. I don't need to consider getting an electric car. It's just a conspiracy. What about the landfill where the batteries go, man? Fuck, it's a big conspiracy. They got all these Chinese slaves mining this copper in Japan and shit. Like, they're dying. It's a conspiracy. So I'm just going to keep driving. I'm going to keep doing what serves my purpose. And all those fires in California, those aren't a result of the years of drought and, you know, a lack of planning on the part of, you know, any kind of state agency, or perhaps even deductions in the Forest Service budget, like, you know, mismanaged. You could potentially think it's a conspiracy that nobody foresaw the possibility of these fires and did anything about it, like dig moats or some shit. Fucking, like, there's any kind of technological solution I would expect possible. You could have surrounded the houses with them fucking Houston flood thing bags, where when the water hit it, just fucking burst. Of course, that would take so much water, California would be even in a worse drought. Because what's funny is I got to study a science called hydrogeology during my college work, and I was presented information. I learned about groundwater. It's the study of groundwater. Hydrogeology. Geology is the ground. Hydro is water. And it's common sense. Shit, water goes in a fucking sinkhole and it comes out a spring somewhere on the bank of a river, but I'd never really thought about it or learned about it. Been taken to places and shown and told that dye is used to trace the underground pathways of this water. Like, it just, wow, that's fucking cool. I'm really glad I learned that shit so I can think about these things logically. And there's these huge aquifers under parts of the world and country or whatever, you know. Memphis shares an aquifer with Arkansas, and Arkansas tried to sue the city of Memphis because they use so much water at times, something along those lines. California's got aquifers, right? And it takes time for these aquifers to fill with water, but people aren't presented with this information, so instead, it's just easier to say, all those fires, I don't know, maybe the fires in California were started and perpetuated using some top secret technology. I don't know. But it seems way more logical to me that, I mean, these wildfires have been happening. You know, they've been happening for years. You're going to tell me, are you trying to suggest, Mr. Conspiracy Theorist, that all these fires for decades past were started and perpetuated via this technology? We didn't have drones 30 years, 15 years, 10 years, 5 years. Did we? Oh, maybe we did, because apparently the government has technology 30 years ahead of the public sector, right? It's not like 3D printers aren't a logical result of, the development of Raspberry Pi technology and all. I mean, okay, maybe not. Maybe the government, I believe the military does. Any fucking how. I don't know everything. But my mind is blown by certain things and I like to share it. It helps me put it all into perspective, to get it out. So I'm reading this little book that a friend, former professor of mine wrote about Jesus. And I've always loved the idea that God could come to earth in the form of a human and make things better. Help us make things better. I've always loved the idea that every person has at least a little bit of God in them, if not all of God in them. You know, they are everything, as everything is God. You know, God is everywhere all the time, whatever. I've loved the book Illusions, Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah, Eden, Stranger from a Strange Land, or In a Strange Land, whichever one that is. Man from Mars, Michael Valentine Smith. I find myself fascinated by these things, this idea. And I'm reading this little book, and it's talking about asking Jesus to come into your heart. And the author's talking about having talked to a little girl about it on some occasion, and how she asked Jesus to come into her heart on a nightly basis. And I'm sitting there reading it thinking, immaturely, like, why are Christians so sexually attracted to Jesus, you know? Why is it so perverted? Comically perverted. And then in the book, there's this prayer, you know, and it's asking Jesus to come into your heart, which is something, luckily, because obviously you're going to see where this is ending. I was introduced to Christianity. I come from a Christian family where I was kind of in multiple situations in church where people are like, you know, ask Jesus to come into your heart, and it's a weird feeling. Like, for me, and granted, it's probably totally psychosomatic or whatever, but I've experienced it on almost every occasion where I get this feeling of peace and comfort, and I'm very grateful for that. It's like the greatest thing ever. Whenever I do that, when I think about those things like that, like, I realize that I was being immature and perverted myself, and I am, at times, often. A lot of people are, I really do think that there is a God, and we are able to connect to it pretty easily. And I wonder, like, in that book, Illusions, there's this character, basically Jesus, that emerges in modern day society and ends up much like Stranger from a Strange Land, in a Strange Land, getting killed by a guy, getting killed by human violence, right? And it struck me. I'm thinking about it, like, it's crazy to go around talking about Jesus being in you, in your heart, in one's heart. It's kind of crazy. And I get that. It's even crazier to go around saying you are Jesus, right? And it makes sense that somebody would kill him if whoever is saying that, for so many reasons. I mean, if that doesn't make sense to you, consider why, if the Bible makes sense to you, Jesus was crucified the first time around. How does that make sense? But what I'm saying not make sense, What I'm saying is that the elements of fear and inevitability and anger in our society being so full of so much suffering, like, to me it just makes sense that these things could happen this way. Because in the end, like the great Metallica once said, nothing really matters, right? Or what does it even matter? Like, people ask me, if they were to ask me, do you believe in Jesus? Well, what the fuck does it matter? It's about how I live, about the example that I set, about the things that I do, no matter what I say. And I've wondered about this for years now, I believe. Like, what does it matter if I answer that question one way or the other? I don't know if it does. I really don't know if it does. I really think that it's more important how I live my life and what I do. And, there are conspiracy theorists who claim to love Jesus. Talk about it. It's just really funny to me how you get these different perspectives and they dominate conversations. I don't remember where the hell I started, but it's a good day. I'll tell you that. It's warming up. I've got some more work to do, so I guess I do need to go. But I feel like, I think I started talking about fasting. I had a good meal and I found myself just really enjoying it, feeling really grateful, thinking I need to fast. And I may have to start Thanksgiving like the great late Dick Gregory. That man fasted for years, on end at times. Juice in particular was what he used to sustain his body and mind, spirit. And it's probably easier than ever to do that kind of thing. And it also seems to make having super long mustache hair more doable. This food gets in this shit. It's like the dog really wants to play. I'll give the camera a wink. What do you want, Z? Tell me. What do you want? Is it yoga time? What is it? You want to play? You want to play? Huh? Is it time to play? Yeah? Okay, let me finish up. I was trying to get her to talk to you. She's got a beautiful voice. She's got big old teeth too. I was thinking that I should rename my blog and shit, do some new business cards. It says, I'm the man of few typed words. Because I will write. I found this wallet thing on the ground. Where was I? It's like in East Nashville or something. Downtown. I saw it and was like, fuck. Picked it up, opened it up, see if there was anything in there I could try to return it. No. Totally empty little wallet. But it works great for like holding business cards and my little pin, which is just the inside thing of a pin. But like I can like keep notes on the back of my business cards on this thing. And I will write when my phone, I'm using it for a camera, or it's dead, or whatever. And I will type sometimes, but mostly I'll just record because I can't type fast enough, and I get lost thinking. If I'm not saying it, and I guess hear myself say it, I get lost when I'm typing. I start to lose my train of thought. And so the man of few typed words, I totally wrote that down earlier. And I was going to talk about certain things, like I guess maybe food, fasting. It's definitely something I was sitting there thinking about while I was eating that I wanted to talk about. But I definitely want to talk about my future because I want to see. I think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I want to go around and talk to people and see the world as much as I can while I can, because I feel like I'm running out of time. I was also thinking, I was definitely thinking about this. I feel really grateful that I seem to look somewhat like Jesus may have looked in high school before 9/11, after which, of course, I was associated with Middle Easterners and terrorism constantly. Before 9/11, I was saying, high school, my principal, or vice principal, one or the other, she used to call me, as a black lady, she would call me Jesus because I had long hair and my beard long, and I guess I just looked like Jesus to people. You know, I could have been Jesus every Halloween. And I honestly feel grateful that I have a fairly dark complexion, dark hair, and I enjoy growing my hair and beard out. And, you know, of course, then being told I look like Jesus, because it's had me thinking on so many different occasions over so long that and especially when you do drugs, acid, shrooms, you feel like, oh fuck, I'm Jesus. I might be Jesus. Like, what if I am? What if I am to be crucified when I'm 33 or whatever? I'm 29 now, so I've got 4 more years of life left, according to the prophecy, right? No, that's crazy talk. But it's got me thinking so many times, like, okay, you know, I'm probably not Jesus, but maybe Jesus is in me, like the Christians say, you know. And if he is, and you think about what Jesus said, like, really, what's the fucking difference anymore? And then you're back to being a crazy person in public and society, walking around. You run the risk of getting put in Guantanamo Bay just for being fucking undesirable, or put in prison, or insane asylum, or whatever, for, you know, trying to take down the establishment and the greed of our capitalist society, take care of everybody. That's not good for the profits of corporations, no? Yes? See? So, I don't know. I really get the sense that I'm going to Orlando Friday, 2 weeks. I get back, got a truck to sell, got a 3D printer to sell, some musical instruments to sell, some bicycles and motorized bicycles to sell. You can give me a good chunk of change to hit the road on my bike. I really want to take my laptop with me because I can do CAD on that. That's a big fucking thing. It's not much bigger though than my gun. I thought about trying to take a rifle, and that's fucking huge. But theoretically, I don't need any of those things. I don't need the guns. I don't need the laptop, and I probably don't need an instrument of any kind either. We want to make a song with 2 chords, F and C. Oh, let's put a B flat in there too. Sometimes I go a little bit crazy, and I'm lazy. I don't shave my beard, and I'm hairy. My pubic hair is long as fuck. Too much imaginary. I got a little bit to say about. I like to throw some alternative chords in there for you. I like to be boss. Yeah, I'm on it. Take it up to E flat. Got go flow, got the between the chorus, yeah. What the fuck I mean? I could be nice, don't get too angry. Gotta take a deep breath, step back, say, I just choked. Oh, I do cold. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. I like weed and caffeine and booze too. Sometimes, oh yeah, I like shrooms to do. Not gonna lie, but I advocate against violence and encourage you to do your research. Read as much as you can, even try the Bible. I understand if you're liable to not even pick that book up. Some people are really fucked up. They turn you off for the rest of your life, but still give it a chance, child or adult. Gone crazy, get a little lazy. Take the day off and sit down by the pool and drink a cold one, yeah. I like coffee, drink too much coffee. Just to rap about whatever's in front of me. Drink carbonated water is the best. Let's try solo. Boo, boo, boo. Back to the chords now. I'm really into 3D printing, and CAD's awesome as well. Woodworking's awesome, and metalworking's awesome, and everybody's awesome. I got a pet possum, no I don't. Got a dog, her name is Eva. No, I don't. That's my land, people. I like to eat zebra. No, I'm just kidding. Vegetarian. No, I'm not. I eat bacon. I eat just about anything that you place in front of me. I'm really into 90s music too. I'd say 70s is awesome as well. And 80s and 60s ain't bad. 2000s can be pretty cool. Yeah, I say.